Welcome, everyone. It's Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Clare. It's August 21st, 2019. The show is presented, as always, by the Marijuana Times. You can find us at marijuanatimes.org. Click the video tab there to find the show. A lot of great articles as well from a lot of great writers. marijuanatimes.org. Today we're talking about the wonderful side effect of legal hemp that a lot of people seem to have a problem with. I don't see what the problem is. Also, the American Bar Association made their feelings about marijuana legalization known, and Missouri Medical Marijuana is going to be awarding licenses later this year. How many? Well, we'll tell you. All that's coming up. But first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Grow safe and poison-free. Don't use banned pesticides or harmful chemicals. Be regulatory compliant in the state that you are growing in. All of these things can be accomplished with Natureside. Nature-side.com, a proud sponsor of Cannabis News. The first story from marijuanatimes.org by yours truly. The wonderful side effect of legal hemp. We've talked about this before. I wrote about it before. We've talked about it on the show several times. This quote-unquote problem that a lot of states and a lot of jurisdictions are having. Law enforcement is having this problem. Prosecutors, they have a problem. They don't have the testing ability or the money to test the difference between hemp and legal hemp and illegal marijuana. We've seen this in Texas and Florida. It's also cropping up in Ohio. Stories are coming out of places like Tennessee and Georgia as well, that since they can't differentiate between marijuana and hemp, and anyone who's called marijuana can say, well, it's hemp, test it. They don't have the money to test or the ability to test or whatever the problem is. Then a lot of these marijuana cases have been dropped by prosecutors. Prosecutors in a lot of different counties and jurisdictions in these states are no longer prosecuting low-level marijuana possession because it's not worth it. A lot of states are spending a lot of money. Ohio is already ponying up a big fund. Texas is doing the same thing. It's going to cost like $10 million or more to get the tests that are needed in Texas. Texas is one of the states, of course, that, as we talked about in an article a couple weeks ago, that has backlogged rape kits. Backlogged rape kits. Rape kits from women who allege they were raped that have not been tested. And they're going to spend millions of dollars to get tests so they can tell the difference between hemp and marijuana. Basically, they can check the THC level so they can prosecute these people who may have marijuana instead of hemp. The fact that testing for THC in plant material would in any way override testing backlogged rape kits seems incredible to me. Now, maybe I'm biased. I'm very pro-cannabis, and I'm about as much against rape as one human being can possibly be. So maybe I don't see things from a perspective that someone else will see them from. Maybe a anti-cannabis, pro-rape person would see things differently than I do. But the way I see it, I think we're going to spend a bunch of money, no matter what state it is, and you have backlogged rape kits. I think you keep spending money there, and so that problem is solved. And then once all those have been cleared away, and you got what you need, like I don't know, when the night a rape kit comes in, maybe it's analyzed then. I don't know. Isn't time of the essence in some of these cases? I'm not a law enforcement person, so maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe everything I've learned from the first 48 is doing me no good right now. I don't know. But once that's taken care of, then maybe we can talk about, well, we're going to get this test to see if this hemp is in fact marijuana, so we can prosecute this person for a low-level marijuana charge, because that's important that law enforcement and police have the ability to do that for some reason. For some reason, that's a necessary piece of the fabric of our society, that it's important for law enforcement and prosecutors to know whether the plant matter in your pocket is hemp or marijuana, what the THC level is. Is it more than 0.3? Is it that 0.5% THC stuff all the kids have been talking about? And been getting high and going bonkers on? I don't know. I don't understand. I don't think anybody can make me understand why we would spend money testing for hemp when there's backlogged rape kits for it. That's just an example of all the more important things they could be doing with that money. That's just the most extreme example, the most obvious example. Isn't it important? One is someone has plants in their pocket. The other is someone has been violated as a human being, more than likely with extreme violence. I don't know. You'll never make me believe that testing for hemp is more important than testing rape kits. I'm sorry. I'm not open-minded on this subject. I don't know what else to say. That's nuts. You people are nuts. This next story from MarijuanaMoment.net. American Bar Association urges Congress to let states set their own marijuana policies. The American Bar Association adopted a resolution last week that calls on Congress to allow states to set their own marijuana policies and recommends rescheduling or descheduling cannabis under federal law. Members of the ABA House of Delegates approved the measure at the organization's annual meeting in San Francisco, and, according to the ABA Journal, it was broadly supported, passing, quote, without audible opposition, end quote, even after proponents waived their time to speak. Though the ABA specified that it was not taking a position on marijuana legalization generally, it recognized that conflicting federal and state cannabis policies are untenable and have created complications for cannabis businesses operating in compliance with state law. It includes a lack of access to financial services that lead such companies to operate on a largely cash basis, making them targets for crime. The resolution states that the ABA, quote, urges Congress to enact legislation to exempt from the Controlled Substances Act any production, distribution, possession, or use of marijuana carried out in compliance with state laws, which is great. If they did that, that would be fantastic. And obviously this is not binding in any way. It doesn't, enact any laws or anything like that. But the fact that a mainstream organization like the American Bar Association is at the point, it does in the professional world, it doesn't get more mainstream than lawyer. The fact that marijuana is so mainstream and that the problem and the conflict between federal and state laws become so large and so glaring and so obvious that they can back something like this, and there's no worry of repercussions or people saying, oh, what are you doing? This is crazy. It just seems like, yeah, that's something that everybody, or most people at least, pretty much agree on. So they're going to get behind it as well. And maybe it will have an effect. Maybe it will have a practical effect. I don't know. But as far as the mainstreaming and the normalization of marijuana, it definitely goes a long way. This last story is out of Missouri from the news-leader.com. Missouri will award 348 marijuana business licenses selected from 2,100 applications. Early Tuesday, the Missouri Health Department announced that it received 2,163 applications for medical marijuana facility licenses under Amendment 2, which is the Missouri medical marijuana law that was passed last year. The state must require competitive licenses for would-be owners of cannabis-related businesses. The state collected more than $13 million in application fees, according to the news release. Those 348 licenses that will be awarded breaks down to 192 for dispensaries, 60 for cultivation facilities, 86 for manufacturing facilities, and 10 for testing labs. The health department has already approved more than 6,500 applications for qualifying medical marijuana patient and caregiver ID cards since it began taking them on June 28th of this year. That's according to officials in Missouri. The rest of the article is basically them talking about how these exceeded expectations. The over 2,100 applications. They only have 348 licenses, so most of those application people are going to be SOL, as they say, as the parlance goes. And I mean, this notion, I don't like this notion to begin with, that the state or the government or a bureaucrat somewhere or a collection of bureaucrats are going to decide, well, this is how many dispensaries we're going to have. Based on what? Based on what? Certainly not demand. You don't know what the demand for medical marijuana is. Clearly, every estimate for how many license applications there were going to be was way below what actually happened. So they don't even have a grasp on the demand for licenses for businesses. How are they going to have a grasp on the demand for the actual product? The answer is they won't. And they'll continue to try to adjust. There'll be shortages, surpluses. There'll be too much. There'll be not enough. Prices will fluctuate. And they'll never quite get the right amount because they're not letting the mechanism that decides that, the market, do its job. The market will decide what the demand is. I was talking about this yesterday when it comes to Oklahoma. People were like, well, there's so many dispensaries in Oklahoma and it's too many. Well, you don't need to decide that there's too many. Customers will decide if there's too many. And you know what? If they decide there's too many, some of them will go out of business because there won't be enough demand to meet the supply that they're bringing. People are fine. People are fine when it comes to making purchasing decisions. They don't need you to hold their hand. They don't need you to be their nanny. They're adult human beings. Demand and sales and things of that nature should decide how many of each business there is. But no, the people in government are so smart, and they got 12 votes in the county comptroller race, so they get an input about what happens here because they're so brilliant. Because they got 12% of the electorate, since 60% of the electorate stayed home, they got the 12% of what remained, and they won some race, or they're in some bureaucratic position. So what? That makes them know how many dispensaries are needed in Missouri? No, it doesn't. Not anywhere near. I bet if the market decided how many dispensaries are needed in Missouri, it would be nowhere near 192. I guarantee it. I think I would. I have a wide area there. I have a wide margin of error there, so I think I would be right on that. See, I'm not trying to pinpoint what the right number is. It's just impossible. And once you admit that's impossible and say, well, maybe the amount of people who want to buy medical marijuana, maybe that should decide how much medical marijuana there is, then maybe you're on the road to people actually having timely access at a reasonable price. But until then, it's just bureaucrats tinkering like they're playing Risk on a board or something, or a battleship. In any case, we'll continue to bring you updates on that and all the other stories we talk about here on Cannabis News. If it's cannabis related, I'm going to talk about it. Make sure you check out the swag, makecannabisgreatagain.com. We're at marijuanatimes.org. Click the video tab there for the show. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Click that notification bell so you know when a new episode has dropped. If you want the audio version of the show, Apple Podcasts is where to find that. Nature-side.com. They're an awesome sponsor. Check out their organic, all-natural pesticides. Thank you all for watching and listening and liking and sharing and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.